All right. Good afternoon. How y'all doing? It's good seeing everyone. It's first of all, it's good to be back after taking 2 West Coast trips. Guys have played hard. They found a way to win games, and I think that the guys are starting to hit their stride. We're not quite perfect, but obviously this is what training camp is about, and we'll continue to work towards all the little things that we got to fix. But it feels good knowing that we will be lining up in Arrowhead Stadium and playing on our home field. So with that said, I'm all ears.
Eric, you obviously just talked about it, but the benefit you guys are getting, especially with playing the starters and Patrick Mahomes, we've seen some teams in the NFL not play their quarterbacks and stuff. Can you explain to us what benefit, especially with a new offensive line, that you guys are getting out of playing Patrick Mahomes?
Well, I think it helps all of them. It helps Pat, it helps the O-line, because they're still developing that chemistry. One thing that we always talk about is the importance of over-communicating clarity, good, bad, or indifferent. As long as the communication is there and everybody's on the same page, we will always find a way to make it right. But we got to continue working on that, and that's an aspect of when you got young players up front. So you want to make sure you're continuing that continuity and building that chemistry so guys would know exactly what to do and how to handle those situations once the season kicks off.
Andy mentioned yesterday that McCole had to step in at the last moment in the Tyreek Hill role, and there were some miscommunications that went into that. Just how challenging is it at the last minute to switch mentally right into everything that he does?
You know what? It happens, but the thing is when it's all said and done with, we expect all of our players to perform at a certain level. Now, when it's all said and done with, Pat and McCole, they will always find a way to work through everything. You know, I know we wasn't quite where we needed to be, but when it's all said and done with, those guys found a way to make it happen together. And that's the beauty of training camp. That's the beauty of having the preseason, because just like we discussed, life happens. So now what are we going to do when presented with those situations, and how are we going to handle it? So I'm glad that situation happened, because now we can turn that into a positive moving forward.
And following up on that, obviously, I would assume that your receivers, they are responsible for knowing each position.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. But to that point, how many tight ends are you looking to keep, and do you think Jordy Fortson has his blocking been for you this preseason?
You know what? I'm satisfied and I'm pleased with what the tight ends have done. Those guys have done a great job. Now, when it's all said and done with, as far as the numbers are concerned, obviously Coach Reed, Brett Veach, our GM, they're going to sit down and have that discussion. When it's all said and done with, I don't want to release anybody, you know, and that's the tough part about being in this position, because not only do you get attached to the player because we spend so much time with them, but also you get attached to the person. You know, there's relationships that are developed here. And so it's hard watching those guys leave. But I understand the profession that we chose, and those tough decisions have to be made. But when it's all said and done with, I want to keep everyone, because everyone in this building can give us the opportunity to pursue our goals.
When you talk about how you coach your backups to be starters, those are the second and third string and obviously won't make the team. What have you seen from those players that they were to put on film for another team?
I've seen our guys step up and do some things that are very impressive. Obviously, with those guys having an opportunity to drive the length of the field the last 2 games or so, to put in some productive play time, but also put us in position to make sure we either winning the game or securing the win. That's been very satisfying, and I can't complain. Our coaching staff is doing a heck of a job with those guys. But on top of that, the players are stepping up to the plate and making things happen when called upon. And those are the things that you get excited about when you're teaching and coaching. You want to see these players respond in those heated moments.
Jerick McKinnon, obviously you've watched some video of him before he got here, but you learned anything about him and being around him for a few weeks now?
Oh, yeah. Learned a lot about Jerick. In fact, I remember Jerick when he came out of college, and we spent a lot of time with him at the Combine, and he was one of those players that did everything. I think he played a little option quarterback. He played running back. He played defensive back. So we've had him on our radar for a while. But, you know, he's a savvy veteran that's just, you know, very good at a lot of things, and that's the thing that makes him valuable, okay, because he brings a tremendous amount of experience. On top of that, he's a heck of a football player that happens to play the running back position. And so those are the things that are intriguing. We love what he's bringing to the table. We love how he works in the classroom. But on top of that, what he's doing out there on the field as well.
Eric, what's that fight like between some of those receivers that are kind of the friends like Maurice Fountain, Marcus Kemp, and Jody Fortson, players like that, and the back and forth you have with Dave Tobe, and like, I really like these guys, I want to keep them, but I know effort on the field is one thing, but just how competitive is that, knowing that they're kind of at that fringe?
Oh, there's always a fight. But one thing that we express to all these guys, and one thing when I talk to these young guys, as far as rookies and players that are trying to make our roster, I always remind them there's an imaginary sign outside that door. That imaginary sign says hiring all applicants. And I remind them every single day that you're in this building, make sure that you're interviewing for a job. And so if you're interviewing for a job, guess what? All right, if you're good enough, you're going to make it. On top of that, if you put the right stuff on tape, guess what? You'll have an opportunity to make it somewhere else.
I want to ask you about Creed. We're talking to him a little bit later. I think it's almost funny for a rookie. So we've seen him in with the first team, getting a lot of work with them. What have you seen from him from a young player that gives you that confidence that he can step in week one?
You know what? Creed is a unique individual that plays hard. He does a heck of a job of making things happen. And on top of that, he can run in space. So I love what Creed brings to the table. I like the fact that him and Pat are developing their chemistry. They're doing a lot of communicating. And the thing about it, he's doing a great job of making sure that he's getting the proper information to the O-line. And that's one of the most stressful things about being an offensive center in this business is making the right calls. And at the end of the day, when it's all said and done with, we just want him to make a call. Just be verbal with everything. But as far as Creed as a player and as a person, he's very energized when he's out on that field. He does not like making mistakes. And the only thing he wants to do is make sure that he's doing it the right way.
Coach, we talked about numbers. Obviously, Darwin Thompson start training camp off was in the COVID protocol. What have you seen from him over the last two ball games? Obviously, it's a numbers game, so we don't know how many running backs you're going to keep, but going into Friday's game, what are you hoping more to see from him as well?
Well, first of all, Darwin's been playing his tail off. We expected Darwin to be exactly where he is. He's a tough, competitive football player that doesn't take anything for granted. He understands what it means to play on special teams, and he understands that if he is going to be on this team, that's a very important role. But he also understands the importance of when he has an opportunity to make the very most of it. You know, it's time for him to go out there and produce. I think he's done a heck of a job with that the past few weeks. The only thing I've told him is just keep your feet on the ground, man. Stop jumping. Stop jumping. He might knock himself out landing on his head.
I was just going to ask you, Eric, when you roll through the tape, I mean, does he get bonus points for trying these hurdles, or is it something that you feel like you're not going to really coach that out of him because it is part of his
Well, I'm hoping we can coach it out of him, because the last thing I want him to do, and like I told him, this sound bad coming from a short guy myself, okay? He's the shortest guy on the football field. There shouldn't be any way that they should be able to get underneath your pad level if you drop your shoulder on them. So don't worry about jumping. You're exposing yourself, and then you can lose control. So, but I will say this, Darwin is a hell of a competitor. He plays hard, he plays fast, and he loves what he does. He loves the game.
Reese Fountain's the guy that came back from the ankle injury, shows up in May for just a tryout, and it seems like he's done nothing but make plays since. I saw him make a one-handed grab yesterday. What has he really shown you, since you got here?
You know what? Maurice is just what we've just discussed. He's one of those kids that does not want to take anything for granted. The only thing Maurice wants to know is what can he do better. And the biggest thing that Coach Joe Blameyer, myself, Coach Reed have all talked to him about is just making sure that he can fine-tune 3 little aspects of his game each and every day. The kid works hard. On top of that, he's a smart player. And then, obviously, you've seen the fruits of his labor, because what he's done in practice is showing up on game day. And we see it each and every day. And it's because he's invested in himself, but also invested in that playbook. And then when it has an opportunity to make that play, he just goes up and makes it. But the kid is a great kid, proud of the things that he's done so far, and we're just going to keep evaluating it.
I want to ask you about, looking at last year, and the way it ended, with the Bucs, what they tried to do, be physical, take away what you guys do well, the deep ball. Have you seen that so far in preseason? And, what's going to be the personality of this team going into the season?
Well, we're seeing, obviously, teams always study the team that has success against you. So we're expecting that. And on top of that, one thing that we just have to prove is that we have the patience to drive the length of the field. So obviously we've changed the line of scrimmage with the people that we brought in. We're expecting to run the ball a little bit more, obviously, but also too, we're just telling our quarterbacks take what is given. Okay, be patient. They want to play everything from the back end, no problem. Let's make sure we're taking everything underneath. Now we can catch and get north and south. We got some dynamic football players on our team who can make things happen when that ball is in their hands. We, as a staff, just got to understand sometimes it's okay to drive 16 plays and score a touchdown, but I do also understand that we love scoring in a two-play drive as well. But we just got to be patient, poised, and just make sure that we can sustain drives, but more importantly, finish them.
And I know you're a running back first guy, of course. But is that going to be, is that a point of emphasis going into the season?
Well, yes. I mean, obviously it is, because one thing that makes a great passing game is a run game. You know what I mean? And so they both complement each other. And so obviously, yes, we would love to run the ball efficiently and more effectively. But also, too, when throwing the ball, we just got to make sure that we're poised and that we take what is given.
Jerry, the 53-minute cut down is such a numbers game, considering how last season ended. Just how much consideration is there to maybe keeping an extra offensive lineman, making sure you guys have 5 players worth of depth if something were to happen? You know
what? And I'll sit here and I'll say this. Right now, that's the furthest thing from my mind, because I'm going to leave those discussions up to Coach Reed and Veach. Let them handle that. I'm going to coach these guys up and make sure that they're ready to play, in this preseason game. That way they can be at their best when their best is expected. Okay? You guys, okay. I'm sorry.
I just want to clarify what you just said. You said run the ball more efficiently, more effectively. Do you also anticipate running it more often?
Well, I mean, if you're running the ball, you expect to run it efficiently and effectively, meaning we're being productive more than anything. So ideally, we consider a slant route as a run game throw. You know what I mean? So, but we love what we do and what we're bringing to the table. I'm not going to sit here and say, hey, we're going to run the ball X amount of times or we're going to pass the ball X amount of times. We want to do what is best for us on any given day, in any given moment, to help us to accomplish the goal.
Thank you.
All right.